Opened letter to Occupy Roanoke. We are participating in change that has no parallel in the history of mankind. The speed at which this is happening and its breadth poses challenges to every facet of what it means to be human. We may very well be approaching an opportunity to ascend to a form of governance that is closer to a pure democracy than anyone could imagine. We know well the failings of every other form of governance that has been attempted to date, including, as U.S. citizens, our biggest challenge is not anything external. We must ultimately dispense with the small, us, versus them, thinking that is so natural, and accept that we are wholly responsible for the way things are. If we reject the notion that we, as a whole, have made things exactly as they are, then how can we accept that we, and only we, have the power to change them? Whether through complacency, ignorance, or willful participation, we must accept that this, we have done, and this we can change. We all tend to start out with the well-embedded illusion that we can control others. Our first lessons are those we learn with our parents when we demand food and comfort, and they, hopefully, respond. We learned we can control others, however, until we learn to control ourselves, until we accept the burden of responsibility implied by the weighty reality that we only truly control ourselves, we suffer. Beyond the control of self, there are only cooperation and coercion. We must resist the urge to protect this movement, which is in its infancy, by controlling what others say or do. If one individual takes it upon himself or herself to attempt to prevent someone from saying, posting, or doing something they feel is counter to the collective will of the group, by what authority do they do so if, in fact, they have not attained a consensus to take such action? And secondly, by what authority would even a group speaking with one voice presume to exercise such authority? My point is this: there is no such authority. We cannot control the actions of another. The group, speaking with one voice, may only assert that such an individual does not speak or act on behalf of the group. That's it. To do otherwise is to seriously risk becoming that which we would hope to escape. We as a group, as a movement, do not represent the rule of law, and as a society we already have plenty of that to go around. This brings me to another point: organization. Occupy Wall Street broached our imagination and pushed the country into a new and unfamiliar realm. Many good things have come from their initial efforts. Shall we assume that they got everything right and we should abide by their initial ideas of how to proceed without modification? If there are indeed to be no central leaders, then would we not effectively be placing them in that role to follow without consideration those initial ideas that seemed to be a good idea at the time? I would suggest that this must be a fluid movement, and that, as difficulties arise, a willingness to change and adapt are crucial if we are to survive. I would like to address some specific challenges that seem to be emerging. While the notion of using a purely democratic process instead of a representative democratic process seems to be the mode of choice, it presents some significant practical difficulties. If the only option to participate is to show up in a park, then in a community such as ours with approximately 300,000 people, how can this work? On the other end of the scale, how many of us would feel comfortable with the 5 or 10 people who either have four-wheel drive or can walk to the park in 0-degree weather with 10 inches of snow on the ground to stand around for 3 hours making decisions for the group? We have an internet, something not even imagined by agents of change only 2 or so generations hence. We are smart enough to overcome issues of security. We are smart enough to imagine and create a means of employment in ways not yet conceived. It has the potential to engage large numbers of people that there simply is no other practical way to reach, whether we do it now or people more determined than us make it happen later. I assure you this will come to pass as a powerful way for the masses to speak their will. With regard to group decisions, I suggest to all that whatever form it takes, there is a crucial need for democratically established rules of order. This is typically done by the creation of a set of bylaws that governs the processes of how decisions are made. Decisions are the primary product of any body of people, and they must precede any action that is to be truly representative of the will of the group. The establishment of such a document permits all who are interested in participating effectively in the process of the group. There is no confusion about what the process is or how it is to transpire. I close with a few additional thoughts on organization. To establish decisions that are truly democratic, there needs to be a stable body of eligible voters. How can you know the results of the vote if you don't know how many members you have? While a vote of hands by 30 or 40 people who may be able to make it on a given day is a start, is there any real assurance that the vote is representative? What is your definition of fairness? Is it fair for only those who can be physically present to have a say? What about the elderly, the ill, and those who cannot leave work or their children, and young people? Who says these people should not be included merely because they are unable to appear? Is it really fair for 30 or 40 to make all the decisions? I would have to go on record of having strong opposition to anyone seeking to establish such privilege merely on the basis of physical presence when so many more could be brought in.